Let's talk about the dream. A full center, a thriving wait list, and a reputation so good, families are begging for a spot before their baby is even born. Sounds like magic, right? Nah, it's leadership, baby. And in this episode of the Childcare Directors Chair podcast, we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to manage your wait list like a boss and keep your enrollment numbers strong. Spoiler alert, it's not about having cute flyers and a good Instagram game, although that does help. We're digging into the leadership skills, systems, and mindsets that make the difference between struggling to fill spots and turning families away with a smile. Whether you're dealing with drop offs or drowning applications, in this episode, we will help you turn your waitlist into your center's secret weapon. With our guest, I knew I was going to say it wrong. Gertrude? How do you pronounce
Karen,
it?
yeah. You're good.
Karen Thomas. So welcome to the show.
Karen, like with the J.
So welcome to the show, honey. Tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Of course. I'm so happy to be here, Erica. Like, this is a pleasure. So thank you so much for having me. And a little bit about my background. I like to call my story from hater to helper for childcare. So my parents, they actually built their childcare center that's licensed for 112 students in Columbus, Georgia in 2002. I actually went there as a child in the after school program, but the hater part was that I felt like the center took all of my parents' time. I'm like the needy middle child. I'm like, what about me? I need some time. And so I absolutely hated the business because I'm like, I never get to see my parents. And so fast forward, I'm now living in Atlanta, Georgia. I have 2 kids of my own. I'm happily married. Today is actually our 11th anniversary. So super excited for that. But I started helping. I was actually working as a data scientist for a large retail company, and it was like my dream career. I always wanted to be that, but I still felt like I wasn't really walking in my exact purpose. And I remember just praying one day to God, like, Lord, what should I do? And I heard him say, help your parents. And I immediately knew it was to help the center. And I felt resistance, like, wow, really? Are you sure?
Like, I just got out of there.
Yeah. So it was a beautiful experience because helping them, that's like the closest I ever got to my parents, and like just getting to understand their day to day of why it took up so much time. And that was just my purpose of trying to help them kind of save time here and there, trying to make their processes easier. And I actually helped them sell their center back in April. So they're happily retired now. And now I just have the mission to try to help other childcare owners do the same.
Well, your story probably resonates with a lot of kids whose parents own centers. My daughter would happily agree with all of the statements you made. She is one of my directors now, and she's extremely helpful. But yeah, as she was growing up, she used to say, "You abandoned me." I'm like, "How did I abandon you? We spent literally 24/7 together." She's like, "No, but you were always working, Mom. You're always like focused on something else." I'm like, "Well, you were there. You can see me." But yeah, no, I get it. It takes a lot of time. It does. And, I still have 3 childcare centers. So, it's, finding that balance. But we're
Wow.
not here to be you're not here to be my therapist about that. So what we're going to talk about today is like managing a wait list like a boss. So what does that mean, right? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Break it down.
So just how we manage a team of people and lead people, we hold them to a standard, right, for how we expect them to contribute to the business. So we have to do that same thing for all of our tools. So a waitlist is a tool, and we have to be clear of like, how are we expecting our waitlist to contribute to our business? And if it's not meeting that expectation, we have to figure out either if we want to cut our losses with it or figure out how to develop into an asset that actually serves the business in the way we expect it to. So I'll even ask you, Erica, like how do you expect your waitlist to serve your business?
Well, I look at it as future revenue, future customers, and I think you have to really start to cultivate those relationships before they even start with you in my
Yeah.
brain. But I will tell
Yeah.
you the truth. is we are like a lot of other directors who have a wait list, and it's like names on a paper, and occasionally we'll check in with them. Hey, just check in. Because some
Mhm.
people, especially with infants, they'll come in before like the baby's even born.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes that's, not always, they don't really know when exactly they'll need you and all of that.
Yeah.
And I think multiple families will, or many families will put their names on multiple lists. And so here's really a way that you can set yourself apart, right? Because if I'm on 8 lists and nobody contacts me but one who sends me an email every month, like, we're so excited, you're in trimester number 5, right? That's
Mm.
not really 5, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
that's what I think when we say it out loud. Now, what I
Yeah.
think and what's always in practice could look like 2 different
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So you mentioned the wait list helps cultivate the relationship with your potential future customers, right? And help kind of protect your future revenue. Definitely an expectation we had of our wait list. And one of the biggest things was that we expected our wait list to make our enrollments easier and faster. So when we had an opening, we thought, okay, we'll just start calling our wait list and we'll be able to
Mhm.
fill the spot like that. But we actually found it was doing the opposite.
Mhm.
Like, it was often easier to kinda take the family off the street, right? The one who just found you that day, and
Mhm.
they're like, "I need childcare right now." And so I actually got to a point where I, like, ditched our wait list because I'm like I told my team, I'm like, "Hey, we you see a spot in ProCare, and a family calls that day and they want the spot or they walk in for a tour, just give them the spot because I'm like calling, one at a time on our wait list and like no one's answering the phone or like they don't
Mhm.
want to move their child from the center that they had to enroll in while they were waiting. And
Mhm.
so that's why I kind of got rid of it. But then I totally regretted that decision because like a couple of days later, I get a call from a family. They're like number 32 on our wait list. And the mom's like, "Hey, I've been waiting for like a year. How much longer is the wait?" And I'm just like, "Oh my goodness." Like if she had called me just 2 days before, the
Mhm.
spot would have been hers,
You would have been
but I
like,
wasn't
"Now."
gonna call through 30. Yeah, I wasn't gonna call through like
Yeah.
30 families to find her. So and that's what kind of prompted of like trying to figure out a way I could like reach everybody on our wait list to find that family who's like ready to go to kind of give them that opportunity before we're just taking like the families who just found us that day.
Yeah. So how do you recommend that directors keep the families on their wait list engaged and excited without over promising or sounding desperate?
Yeah, I think one thing you mentioned earlier, Erica, was like just contacting them monthly. I would say there are two things I would do. The first is when they join the wait list, invite them to like follow you on your most active social media sites, whether that's
Mm.
Instagram or Facebook, because I think a picture paints a thousand words. So the more they like encounter, like, oh wow, they're doing that cool thing. Those kids look really happy there. They're having fun. They're learning so much. They'll you'll stay top of mind for them, as they're showing up, as you're showing up in their social media feed. And then the second one I would say is like your newsletter that you send to your current parents. If you have a way to email that out to the parents on your wait list or text it to them, I would say that would be also a good way just so they have that monthly touch point and can stay in tune with what you're doing and what's going on at your center.
Well, that's actually wicked good advice. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this topic is because I'm very transparent. I have everything figured out. I don't, guys. I don't. But this is an area like I feel like could be an opportunity for us. I feel like we haven't managed wait lists a lot because, and I don't mean this vainly, but we very, very rarely have many openings. We are very fortunate in having a good reputation, also being in a city that has plenty of kids for everyone. So I know everybody's dynamics of where they are look totally different. So I say that with a great deal of humility. But I feel like, we could continue to use that as the waitlist as some kind of way to continue to build our brand, even if they don't get in. Because I do like what you said,
Mhm.
sending them like your newsletter or blogs on parenting or things like that, because it really can still help you look like the expert in the field. And we do know
Yeah.
that sometimes when people do enroll in another center because they have to, because you didn't have a spot, they're not always happy, right? We know people leave at day 30, at 60, at 90. So if you're staying in touch with them, even if they enrolled in another place, you might
Yeah.
come up to their mind, like, when they're not happy to be like, "Hey, can I come on over?" So, you
Yeah.
still can capture them. And, it's the end of the school year. So we all
Mhm.
have, even though you're busy, we all have times that we have kind of these peaks and a little bit of a ride, right? We have lots of kids that are graduating from
Yeah.
preschool. So, that's typically, I would say, a good time the month before, right? To maybe start getting people at those peaks. Like, you have 20 kids graduating. That means you have at least 10 spots that are going to be coming open as kids shift into other classrooms. So how do you
Yeah.
manage that? Like, how do you manage that?
Yeah, those are all excellent points. And you remind me of one of the scriptures that I think like captures being prepared for these moments like that. So in Proverbs chapter 30, it talks about there are four things on earth that are small but unusually wise. And it starts with the ants. And they say they're not strong, but they store up food all summer. And I love that because summer like is warm for them to go out, right? It's easy to go out and there's like an abundance of food
Mm,
everywhere, from the dead bugs to like our picnic scraps on the floor. Like it's easy to store up. And I think we have to think about that as leaders, like identifying our summer. I think summer is a awesome opportunity for many centers because it's kind of like that transition time. As you said, the pre-K students are graduating. So people are kind of in transition. Some of the parents take their kids out for the summer to travel as family. And so it's a perfect time, like as people are thinking of a change, like maybe I want something different next year, or people are like relocating for jobs, things like that. I think there are more of an abundance of families that you can kind of capture who like capture that opportunity in the summer. And then outside of the summer, I think, as you said, just like being mindful of those times, like that is easier to kind of do more tours in a week. So there are those ebbs and flows where things are super busy. And then you have some weeks you can kind of like take a breath. And I just encourage you in those weeks, just figure out, can I do tours? Because the more you just consistently like build up your wait list, you'll never be in like a pinch again where like, oh my goodness, we have these spots we can't fill, but it's also too busy to do back to back tours. So I think just if you're like throughout the year, figuring out, okay, this is a pocket I can work on building up my wait list so that when an opening does become available, I can just go to the wait list and don't have to worry about scrambling.
yeah, and for the folks who might be new, we're going to give you a little back tip here. Your very, very busy times are going to be January, September, June if you do summer camp, right? And so be prepared. So go back 30 days and say, let me connect with my wait list, maybe before the holidays in December. Because January, I feel like we get a ton of tours in January. And then again for summer camp. And then again for the beginning of the school year, right? So that means in August, I'm like enrolling and calling people, do you want the spots that are open for September? So, being prepared because you don't want to wait to that last minute and then everybody's
Yeah.
already made their decision. So I think that, like you said, it's almost like your wait list is a great place to advertise, and they're not cold. It's not like cold leads. Those are very warm, actually very hot leads, really, because they've already reached out to you so that you know that they at least connect with your vision, your mission, your program, your pricing, your location. So those are
Yeah.
really hot leads. So stop, spending money on Facebook ads and tap into your wait list.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love you mentioned that them being hot leads because it kind of the thing about your wait list, you actually don't really know who's hot and who's cold on your wait list. So I would love to kind of talk about one of the mistakes I see like we made at our center and I see a lot of owners make. And the biggest one is that we've adopted the restaurant model of working through our wait list instead of the retail model. So I'll explain. So you show up to a restaurant that's really popular and you pretty much have to add your name to their wait list and they're like, cool, we'll call you in about 30 minutes to an hour when we have a table available. And you can reasonably expect to, okay, if I wait an hour, I'm going to get some food at this really nice restaurant. And so it works for them because the wait is predictable and it's not that long, right? And I
Mhm.
can wait an hour before I'm like starving and need to find another restaurant to eat at and I'm no longer hungry, right? And so we kind of so with our wait list, we start from the top, just like a restaurant. Like, let me call this person, and in our market, so our family center was located in Columbus, Georgia. We're right next to an Army base. We have a ton of move-ins, move-outs just with that, right? So even with that, that pros some complications on the wait list, like who's still even in town. So
Mhm.
the one of the tips I want to recommend to childcare leaders is to, instead of the restaurant model, adopt the retail model. So when you go on like Amazon and something you want to buy is out of stock, right? Then you can essentially say, please let me know when this is back in stock. Usually you can ask for an alert. And I think we have to do the same thing, or sorry. So yeah, so that's kind of what we do. We're like, ask for an alert. And then when Amazon has that thing back in stock, do you think that they're going to call an order on their wait list? Like, hey, do you want this thing?
Mm-mm.
No, yeah. No, they're not calling an order, right? They're pretty much blast. They're going to email everybody at the same time like, "Hey, it's back in stock," right? And the reason it works for that because they knew some people who were waiting just went ahead and bought another product
Mhm.
that was in stock and they're happy with that one. But there are some people who were like, I really, really want this product and I want it now. And so when they get that back in stock alert, they're like ready to take action. And so I think that we have to start using that model because we're not sure who is hot and who's cold on our wait list. There are some people, when they realize there's going to be quite a bit of a wait, they found another center and they're actually happy there and they don't want to move their child. They're in a
Mhm.
rhythm and it's great. And so I think if we start contacting everyone on our wait list at the same time, that will help us connect with that person who is hot, who is like, I want it
Mm.
now. I've been waiting for this, like kind of treating it like that golden ticket and Willy Wonka
Mhm.
and the Chocolate Factory of like, yes, it's finally my time, And so that's who we want to connect with as quickly as possible.
That was an amazing analogy. Wow, that
Thank
was
you.
really good. That was good. If you didn't pay attention, rewind, hit the pause, go back. That was really, really great.
Well,
So,
thank
so
you.
let's talk about the connection between a strong brand and great customer experience in staying fully enrolled.
Yes, 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 yes. So I would say the customer experience is going to influence your brand. Like you can't Like your marketing cannot outrun a bad customer experience. So if your current customers aren't happy, if you're having a retention problem, focus on that before you focus on marketing and wait lists. And I'll also bring up another story to illustrate a point. So I don't know if this has happened to you, Erica, but sometimes I love to eat. That's just like at restaurants, tell me where to eat in town. And I remember I'm in Atlanta and I remember like researching where to eat in Atlanta. And it was like the Varsity is the place to go. And I'm like, awesome. So I show up to the Varsity. I'm like a college kid with my mom. And the food was disappointing. I mean, I love they like give these cute little like olden time like paper hats. I love that. But I was like, I'll choose Chick-fil-A any day over the Varsity. And I think that's like one of the worst things that could happen to a center if you have this wait list and someone's been waiting and then they get in your center and they have a bad customer experience and they're like, this is what I was waiting for. That would take your brand. So yeah, customer experience is everything. And I'll share a story opposite of that of how just all these things can work together: your wait list, your customer brand, the experience, all of that. Okay, so have you ever been to Savannah, Georgia?
No, I have not been lucky enough to go to Savannah. I only got to go to
Yeah.
Atlanta once, and I went to the
Yeah.
aquarium, and it was amazing.
Oh, yes. Love the aquarium. Dolphin show is
Yeah,
awesome if you haven't been.
tell everybody about that aquarium.
Yeah, so okay, I mean that's a perfect point. So in Savannah, I just took a trip with my family, with my husband's family. And before I go to a place, like I said, I'm a foodie. I'm looking at where's the place to eat. in this town? Like, where does everybody like to eat? And what kept coming up on these articles is Miss Wilkes Dining Room. So that's their marketing. That they're making sure their name is showing up in the right place. And so it's lunchtime and we're heading there, and they already have a line like of probably 50 to 70 people. And I'm there with my two kids. My boys are 1 and 3 years old. And I made like the biggest mama mistake. I forgot their snacks. So it's lunchtime. I don't have snacks. It's approaching their nap time at this point, and we're just like waiting in this line. And I'm like, we should probably just get out of the line and go to Chick-fil-A. But that line kept reinforcing in my brain, like, this is the place to be. They must have something worth waiting for. And that's what a waitlist does for childcare centers as well. It triggers in the parent's mind, like, oh, if they have this like long wait list, they have something worth waiting for. So I'm like, we gotta push through. We gotta push through. Thankfully, my husband was like, walk around the stroller, calm them down. And then on top of that, not only with the line, because I was almost like about to give up, there was a family in front of us, and they could tell, like, my boys, they're getting antsy. They're not feeling the wait. And they told me how they travel from Ohio to Savannah like every year, and they make sure they eat at Miss Wilkes like every single time. And they're like, it's worth the wait. Just hold on. It's worth the wait. I know like the boys are, get a little crazy, but it's worth the wait. So those are like your customer referrals, right? So it's all working together because like essentially, and then on top of that, my customer experience was amazing. Miss Wilkes is definitely worth the wait. If you're ever in Savannah, that food was absolutely phenomenal. So that's the story of like it all working together. And that's just what you want to get to, that your wait list is reinforcing your worth the wait, and your customer experience is reinforcing your worth the wait, and your current customers are also reinforcing that.
Yeah, great advice again. Great example. So, what's one thing that every director should do this week to strengthen their enrollment pipeline and clean up their wait list?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And one of the things I would say that I've started paying attention to more is, so I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing like childcare centers are doing phenomenal jobs, like posting about the awesomeness they're doing in their centers. But one of the things I've started to do is ask like my friends who are also moms with kids in childcare, just like myself, just like trying to understand, like, how do they start their childcare search? What are the most important factors to them? And so far, we've all started our search with like childcare centers near me or daycare near me. And when I go on Google, it's surprising. It's like maybe 2 out of 10 centers have a really nice professional looking picture on Google. The rest are like relying on like the street view that Google took from like some drone or
Yeah.
something. And it's never a flattering picture at all. It really isn't. And some of them just have like, you can tell it's outdated pictures, and some are stock photos, and stock can be fine. But I would say like that would be the one tip. It's just to like do an inventory of your Google profile,
Mm,
because that is like where a lot of parents are encountering your brand first. And you
mhm.
want to make sure you're having the best first impression there. And just like when you're meeting someone for the first time, like just like a warm smile always makes a great first impression. So I actually believe like having like pictures of actual people, like your teachers, director, like
Mhm.
smiling with the child as your profile pic on Google, that's awesome. And then like your second picture should be like a nice professional picture of your building, but always with the people. That's my favorite thing. Like as a mom, I'm just like, I love seeing like the happy kids, like they look happy
Mhm.
there, you know?
Yeah, great advice. So, give us a little inspiration. Like, do you have a favorite story of a program that turned things around and went from struggling to thriving thanks to better wait list and enrollment strategies?
Yeah, I love this question, Erica. And I would say that for people to stay tuned on that, because this is like the beginning of a journey of trying to help centers with their wait list. But I will share that before my parents sold their center, like I said, I was on a mission to try to figure out our wait list thing and try to fix some of the issues we had in our wait list. And when I couldn't find a software that did what I wanted it to do, essentially. One, be able to text all of the families on our wait list at the same time. And text was important to me because I'm one of those people where like my email inbox, like I subscribe to
Mhm.
everything. Like if you're offering a freebie, I'm giving you my email often. So I have like, no lie, 40,000 unread emails.
I
and I
believe
just
it.
get so many a day. And so it's just so cluttered. It's so like if I'm getting an email, there's a high chance it won't be seen. And there's like research that backs it up that like I think email has like a 20% open rate, whereas texts are like 80%. So if you open my text, like all of them are read. So I want it to be text to the parents because I was like, that will probably have the highest chance of being seen by the parents. The second thing I wanted it to do, I wanted it to essentially let the parents know like how long our wait list is. So that was creating the effect I mentioned at Miss Wilkes Center about like how seeing that line reinforced we have something worth waiting for. So one of the things that I see childcare centers do is they like parents have no idea how many people are on the wait list. So they think that, oh, like, so they're not really seeing like this must be a very highly desirable center because they might think I might be the only one on the wait list without seeing that number. So I wanted a system that let the parents know like, hey, you're number 55 on our wait list, so that it showed in their brain like, oh, there are a lot of other parents that want this. This must be really exclusive and really valuable to get in this center. The third thing that I wanted it to do was to get some skin in the game. So what I mean by that is essentially there's this famous saying that people who pay attention. And so essentially if you have parents make a financial commitment to being on your wait list, whether it's adding like depositing a percentage of the first week's tuition or like your enrollment fee, or we even implemented a cool feature called a priority fee for parents who wanted to like learn about our openings in advance of everybody else. Pretty much getting parents on your wait list to pay, that's going to ensure that they are paying attention to when you have an opening. And so I say all that to say I wanted all that. I couldn't find it anywhere. My husband, he actually works as a software engineer. That's his day job. But for an entire year, because he's a great husband, he's amazing. He built me the software that I wanted. We named it Simplest, kind of like combining simple and catalyst together, and to do all this and fix all the mistakes. So when we were able to test it out very briefly, just in the middle of trying to sell my parents' business, within 5 minutes of texting everyone on our wait list, and these are people we hadn't sent a newsletter to, we hadn't contacted them in months only, honestly, like they were very cold. But we got a response back in like 5 minutes from a parent who was interested in the spot. And I forgot what place in line, and we didn't really get a lot. I don't think we got anyone else who responded, but that was just an example of the power of like, if you contact your waitlist correctly, it can be a valuable asset to you. So I'll just share that story, but there's definitely more to come.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being such a great guest. For the directors out there, if you've been treating your wait list like a dusty filing cabinet instead of a golden ticket, it's time for your leadership to glow up. You heard our guest. Staying full isn't luck, it's strategy. So here's your challenge this week. Audit your wait list. Make one connection call. Take one small step toward building your enrollment system that actually works. And hey, don't gatekeep your growth. Share this episode with another director who needs a little enrollment pep talk. We're in this together. Now go lead with purpose, power, and maybe a little fuller enrollment. Thank you so much for tuning into the Childcare Directors Chair podcast. I'm your host, Erica Scotia, tuning out. Have a great day. You did great. I'm so